think we need to hear it all. He's been doing a pretty good job. He came here in 2004 and whipped 3 of the Catawba County Giants. And at that time, I wasn't on that team. So he's come a long way. He's really advanced in Congress now. So it's something our county can be proud of too, since he represents us. But Patrick McHenry served his 5th term in the United States Congress. So they have to run every 2 years. If I had to run every 2 years, I'd be at home with a fishing pole. Because that's tough business. But Congressman McHenry's district comprises of 7 counties in western North Carolina, from the suburbs of Charlotte to Asheville and Blue Ridge Mountains. In the 113th Congress, McHenry served as Deputy Republican Whip in June and was elevated to the position of Chief Deputy Whip, helping to manage the legislative properties of congressional Republicans on the House floor. Congressman McHenry is a member of the House Financial Services Committee, where he serves as chairman of the Oversight and Investigations Subcommittee. In this role, the congressman provides oversight of the Federal Reserve, Treasury, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and numerous other financial regulatory agencies. As a subcommittee chairman, Congressman McHenry is at the heart of Financial Services Committee, effort to make federal bureaucracy more accountable for how it spends the American people's money. Prior to being elected to Congress in 2004 at the age of 29, and at that time he got the record of being the youngest congressman elected in the United States. I guess that record still holds. Nobody's got it? Patrick represented the 109th District of North Carolina House of Representatives. He also served as Special Agent to the Secretary of the United States Department of Labor, a post he was appointed by President Bush. Patrick's a graduate of Ashbrook High School in Gastonia, North Carolina, and Belmont Abbey College, where he earned a Bachelor's of Arts in History. Congressman McHenry and his wife Julia live in Denver, North Carolina, and worship at the Holy Spirit Catholic Church. They're expecting their first child, a daughter, sometime this month. So at this time, if you'd help me give a warm welcome to Congressman McHenry.
Thank you, Sheriff, and thank you for hosting us tonight. Thanks for the work that you do. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
In the back? Can you hear me? Okay. All right. But thank you for the work you do for Catawba County, and congratulations on your re-election as well. You've done such a great job. I know you were number 2 in the department for quite a while, but running the show, you've done a fantastic job, and they were just recognized with a grant, a federal grant based on the good work they're doing, making sure that we don't have missing children and missing seniors. So congratulations on that as well, Coy.
And thank you for your help on that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, good evening.
Good evening.
How are y'all? Good. Well, this is about your questions. Let me try the microphone and see.
One on the podium for you.
There's one on the stand right there.
Thank you. Is that better? Yes. It is? Okay. Well, then I'll try this, and we'll adapt if we need to. But I just want to, first of all, say thank y'all. Thank y'all for coming out to the town halls. We've had good feedback so far in the town hall meetings we've had, and I'm very appreciative of that. It is about answering your questions, but I at least want to give you a bit of frame of reference for how I've been viewing things and trying to work through some issues. You know, there's all this discussion in politics right now about the 1% and about inequality. Well, I want to talk to you about the way that I view things and how I try to think through the issues that we face as a country. And I try to think about the family in the middle. Nobody talks about them, but we should be talking about them. The family where half the people make less than them, half the people make more than them. The family is smack dab in the middle. The median family income in America is about the same as it was 10 years ago. And if you adjust for inflation, about the same as it was in 1989. It's unacceptable. But unfortunately, the cost of everything has gone up. The cost of groceries, just go to any grocery store, even the best value you can get. Go to the grocery store and the price of milk, the price of bread has gone up. You go to the gas station. The cost of the pumps has gone up. It's doubled in the last 5 years. That's unacceptable. We need a federal energy policy. We need a national energy policy. We need to use our resources here at home so we can actually flip on the switch and have affordable electricity. And we need to be able to fuel our cars, not just with petroleum products, but more options and choices. So we need an all-of-the-above energy approach. We also need to think about healthcare. Unfortunately, the healthcare reforms have actually driven up the cost of healthcare. In North Carolina, we're affected by that. And that's not what healthcare reform should be about. It should be to make it more affordable, not less affordable. So we can fix that as well with federal policy, wise, smart federal policy. And then you think about some other very important things. We're in a high school. Well, the most important thing we can do for the next generation, aside from morals and values, strong morals and values, the best thing we can do is make sure they have education and training so they can actually have the lifestyle they want. Be able to make enough to support themselves and a family. And so education, educational choice and freedom, ensuring that parents and teachers make decisions, not folks sitting behind desks in Washington. So getting educational reforms put in place is very important as well. And those are going to be the things that help that average family in the middle the most. The most. It's going to help all of us, obviously, but that family in the middle, it's going to be able to help them make more in the future than they've been making over the last few years. So I at least want to give you that perspective that's been on my mind, and the way I've been trying to view issues as they come through the House of Representatives, to keep in mind how it's actually affecting those people living in the real world, and to make sure that I'm representing my constituents, you, my bosses, here at home. And so, that's what's on my mind. I'd like to hear what's on your mind. And so, to that end, we have David is the lucky man who's going to have the microphone. And why don't we line up over here on the side right where David is, if you line up here in the row. Come forward. We'll do one over here, so we'll go back and forth. So if you're on this side, you'll come down to Jeff. This side, you go to David. Just a couple basic rules. I mean, Coy laid out a few, but if you keep your question to one and to about a minute, that would help us get through all the questions. You don't have to be polite to me. You're my boss. You employ me, so it's not about being polite to me, but if you'll just be polite to the crowd and be respectful of them as well, and we'll ask the same of the crowd. So we'll start here, and if you'll say your name, where you're from, and we'll get to your question.
My name is Greg Weiss. I helped you get elected back in 2004. I've got a multitude of questions, but I'll do them one at a time. The thing that's really on my heart that I want to speak to you about is what I see as a degradation of the nation that I spent years helping to protect. I've watched the VA fall off a cliff. I've watched the IRS act like they're indomitable. I've watched what happened in Benghazi. I mean, the list goes on and on. We've got a president that, in my opinion, is out of control. We've got a ballot box that's worthless. I mean, just opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, we find out that these elections are not really what they were intended to be. So my question to you is, what is it going to take to get Congress and yourself to do the things, even the hard things, that need to be done so that we can be proud of a country that we're no longer proud of?
First, let me tell you, I share your frustration. I share your frustration. Do you all share his frustration?
Yeah.
So we have checks and balances in our government. The Founding Fathers intended for our government to be inefficient. Why? Not out of making sure things are speedy, but making sure that our government doesn't take away our freedoms, and that our elected representatives don't run counter to the will of their bosses at home, their constituents at home. And only rarely in American history have we had our representatives in government go counter to the will of the people. You think about Obamacare, and you think about the bailout. You know, the bailouts, right? And so both were costly, and both were counter to what the American people wanted and desired. And I'll tell you, I believe I voted with the wants and desires of my bosses at home, and I thought it was the right thing to do. I opposed the bailouts, I opposed Obamacare. Not because we don't need health care reform, not because the financial system wasn't a mess, but those things were the wrong things to do, and they take power away from the people, and take money away from the people, and force them to do things they didn't want to do. So, first of all, I vote right to make sure that your freedoms aren't taken away. But that's not enough. And your frustration is you haven't seen the results that you want to see out of government. There's a practical problem. You have checks and balances. You have three co-equal branches of government. And Congress is at the center of this. That's why the Founding Fathers put us at the top of the list. Article 1, Section 1 begins with the Congress. And so we have to be, I'm mindful of that, and it means that the Congress should be at the center of the government, not the executive branch, not the judicial branch. So how do you reorder that? Well, I think the President's in the midst of trying to reorder that, unfortunately. What he sees in the legislative branch and what he points to is a do-nothing Congress. Well, he's in part right. He's in part right. There's both the House and the Senate in the legislative branch, and it just so happens we have a do-nothing Senate that his party controls. And so we have 342 bills that we passed out of the House of Representatives. 98% of them are passed with both Republican and Democratic votes. They've been gathering dust on Harry Reid's desk, and he's not taking them up. So what do? We keep trying in the House of Representatives. On this border security question, on DACA, we've taken action. We've led, even if the President won't, and even if Harry Reid doesn't want to. Well, then there are other opportunities to take action. And we've authorized a lawsuit. Well, let me give you one example. On DACA, the President authorized, in a way that I think is counter to the law, and said that we're not going to enforce immigration laws against a group of people who are here illegally. That is going well beyond the bounds of the law. There are lawsuits about that. What we did was pass a bill out of the House of Representatives that said the President cannot do that. Right? We passed that on Friday, last Friday. Now there's a hue and cry from liberal immigration activists about this thing, but it's the right thing to do, and the American people support it. So that's over in the Senate. Now the pressure should build on the senators to act on that issue. But we also took another action, which was we authorized a lawsuit from the House of Representatives, not for the House of Representatives, but for the American people, to put a check on this President's out-of-control executive branch actions. He supported and helped write Obamacare. In fact, he even calls it Obamacare so I'm not trying to offend people that support it, the Affordable Care Act, which is misnamed, but that's okay. But we'll call it Obamacare, not to be offensive, but because the President's called it Obamacare himself. So under Obamacare, they have a law as written, and the President's not enforcing the law as written. So we authorized to go to the courts to pursue legal action, to go to the court where the House of Representatives, because of the Senate, hasn't been able to bind him. Well, that's going to take some time, okay? But we're trying to figure out every possible way to balance out this President's actions. And we also, for a little more hope, I'll tell you, when the Founding Fathers put in place the Constitution, we had the most frequent elections on the planet. 200 years later, and then some, we still have the most frequent elections on the planet. So we're looking at an election in 3 months. That the American people believe like you and I do, then hopefully we'll have a change. Well, hopefully we'll have a change. We'll have some reinforcements for our ideas in the United States Senate. So that's what I'm looking forward to. We can talk more afterwards if you have more ideas on ways that we can take action. I'm always looking for avenues and opportunities for that. So, yes, ma'am. Sorry.
With all of the immigration that's
Just say your name and where you're from. Sorry. Just say-
Brenda Redford, and I'm from Mountain View area here in the county. With all of the immigration that's taking place illegally, the children that are coming across that are getting all the publicity now, what is your position on immigration reform?
Thank you. Thank you for asking the question. I figured it was going to be the first or second question asked. How many of y'all are worried about what's happening at our southern border? All right, thank you. I think we have a crisis at our southern border. And it is a crisis in terms of ensuring that we have a nation. All nations around the world have defended their borders. They have borders, they defend their borders. They want to know who's in their country, and I think we have the same rights that other nations do. But we also have a humanitarian crisis. You have parents that are sending their children to the United States, taking a perilous journey, spending a lot of money to take that perilous journey. There's a loss of life, and there are horrible victims along the way, and we have horrible acts being committed against these children that are taking this journey. It's heartbreaking. But it's also against the law. But what they've heard in Central America is the president say, if you're a child and you make it to the United States, you will be legalized. And the number one thing that could happen right now is the president to say clearly to these Central American parents is, if you send your children here, we will return them home. So my view is the president should, number one, speak clearly and say, that's not how our laws work. Do not send your children here. Number two, he needs to enforce the laws as we've written them, period. What the action we've taken, though, in the House of Representatives, we took action this past week. On Friday night, we passed legislation that does four things. Four things. Our first bill did four things. Number one, we changed the 2008 law on human trafficking. And what our 2008 law said was, if you're a Canadian or Mexican child and you appear at the border, we take care of you, we treat you humanely, and we return you home. We send you back. Canadian and Mexican children are treated that way. What we do is change the law, that 2008 law, and we treat other Central American countries the same as we treat Mexico and Canada. Number one. Number two, we enable the governors to call the National Guard, and we as federal taxpayers pay for it. I don't think the taxpayers of Texas should bear the responsibility for what is a national priority to defend our borders. And I trust Rick Perry to defend that border, and I think we as American taxpayers can foot the bill for it, and we must. Number three, we provide for judges and detention facilities, so those children, when they come, can be dealt with in a humane way, and also get them back quickly. So there's funds that have to be available for that. Fourth and finally, we have federal lands that touch the southern border. The president has designated a national monument land, which is in essence park land, and as a matter of that designation, he prevents the Border Patrol from actually patrolling on those federal lands. Do you believe me on this or not? Yes. It is an outrage. The president could fix that with actually doing something that is within his power under federal law and simply say they can patrol it. We change the law and make it clear that the Border Patrol will patrol on those lands. Those are the four changes. And on a separate bill that is a separate aside from that emergency piece, we say that the president's DACA executive action is counter to the law and shall not be funded. So we do those two things. Now, it's a check on executive power. When the president says he's going to act independently in August, counter to what our federal laws are, we have a bill out there that says he should not fund that. The pressure should be on the senators to pull that bill up, to pass it, and say clearly that this president shouldn't go beyond what our laws say. So those are the actions that we took in the House of Representatives. And so, and I appreciate you asking the question, and hope that you're supportive of those actions. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Jim Von Schmitto, I'm in Newton, North Carolina. My question is, you sent me you sent my family a flyer, and it basically, one of the questions on it was, do you support a path to citizenship for illegal immigrants living in the United States? Yes? No? As you pointed out, Congressman, you work for us, so I would like to ask you a yes or no question, the same one. Do you support a path to citizenship for illegal immigrants living in the United States? Thank you.
No. I don't think it's... If you want me to explain.
Sure, thank you, please.
We have people from around, look,
By the way, my wife is Hispanic. She's from Honduras. She came here legally. And she's against it with every fiber of her being.
and that is a very important point.
But she's not here because she does not believe, like the other 86% of the American public, that the American Congress has a will to do anything.
Well, let me say this. So, we're a nation of immigrants. Save one group in America, Native Americans that were here before our ancestors came. But the rest of us came here, and came here through illegal means. And as such, we are a nation of immigrants, but we're also a nation of laws. And so we welcome immigrants. They come here legally. And I think we do have to be welcome to folks from around the globe. What this crisis tells me at the border is that people still want to come and participate in our country. Though we have our problems, though we have our challenges, we still are a light to the rest of the world. That's a wonderful thing. But as a matter of that being a wonderful thing, we do have to preserve it and ensure we respect the rule of law in this country. The folks that came here legally, and your wife being a great example of that spirit, says, I came here, I went through the legal process, all these other folks should too. When you see when you see a family coming through, going through the citizenship process, and how proud they are that they earned it. They didn't steal it, they didn't take it, they earned it. That is such a wonderful thing, and such a reassuring thing for us as Americans. So I appreciate you bringing that up, and give me an opportunity to answer well, I hope I answered the question clearly, and then I tried to explain, probably made it
You
more
said
appropriate.
no, and I'll remember that.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Fred Byrne from here in Maiden.
Hi.
I want to thank you guys for not caving into the
Thank you.
emergency bill that has to be caved in. I'm on the same issue. Now, after a while, what about my rights as a citizen? You know, I'm all for these kids, humanitarian issue and all that. But, you know, you're going to take care of them. There's going to be another train coming. It's going to keep coming. And, you know, now my rights as a citizen are diluted. And that bothers me tremendously. And I think the problem with the Republican Party is you guys are doing a poor job. I think the tail's wagging the dog with these minority groups that, you know, didn't President Obama say initially he was going to support the change in that law? You've got that on tape. Why don't you go to the people, network TV, because your message doesn't get out unless it's Fox News. Be honest with that. So you got to take to ABC, CNN, you know, the networks, NBC, and do a little commercial. Show him saying it. That law, that loophole needs to be changed. Well, he's gone back on it now because those groups went crazy, the Hispanic groups. I mean, these are minority people, the majority of us in the country. I talk to people all the time. This is a major issue with them. But nothing gets done because you guys are afraid, or you're not, your messaging is very poor. I mean, the people are with you, but you're not making your point at all, except on Bill O'Reilly or somebody like that. So, is that too expensive? Would that be too expensive to get a piece and show President Obama saying, yeah, that law needs to be changed or it's not going to stop? Then he turns around with a little pressure from those lobbying groups, the Hispanic groups, and he changes his mind. Nobody knows that unless you really follow it closely. Why don't you guys put that out there? Show him making that statement and say he's not doing it.
How many of y'all knew that the president first endorsed the change to that 2008 law that we just passed? Most of y'all do, but you're... Yes, well, your point about getting the message out is a very clear one, but the big national media is not friendly to us, so we've got to break through. That's why I constantly, when I come home, I'm constantly meeting with more people to make sure I get the message out. And we're trying. That's why I do an email newsletter each week to make sure I'm communicating with you. If you're not on it, then you get jumped.
I see those pack commercials, this pack for Kay Hagan and Tom Tillis and all that. Get that type of commercial out. The people that got money. And 30-second minute clip and tell me where you stand on this issue. And the Keystone Pipeline, you want to create jobs? But Obama's the one stopping that. I mean, you got to make that point. The people don't know that unless you make it. Would it be that expensive to go into that?
It's very expensive, but I hear your point, and I'll try to convey that message to other
You
people.
don't get on the main networks, I'm afraid, I don't think the Senate is going to be taken back. I really don't. I think we're stuck with this election doesn't turn it.
Well, look, the big national media has never been for conservatives, and so that's not new. We got to break through. I hear you. I hear you.
There's got to be money in the health department. You spots local, you take care of this area, North Carolina, something. There's got to be enough money for a 30-second or minute commercial.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Congressman McHenry. My name is Riley Smith. I'm from Honolulu. I just want to thank you for your help after I got back from Iraq. I had a problem with the VA. They were dragging their feet, not getting the care that I needed, or taking care of the injuries that I had when I was in Iraq. And you helped me greatly on that. I appreciate it. I'm sort of in the same situation as Jim back here. My wife is legally immigrated to this country from Peru. And I tried to get her daughter, which she was like 18, I think, at the time. That was a year over the limit, or maybe she was turning 19. And so she couldn't come legally, even though on the family visa. But now, my stepson did come. And for me to try to get the three of them to come cost thousands of dollars to do that. And I see people come here from different parts of South America and Mexico. My wife didn't get a job. It's hard for my stepson to get a job because they do have a green card, an immigration card. My son, he's also from here in Falcon, he can't find a job because even in all the restaurants they hire either Latinos from Mexico or other countries. And you know, I had a hard time with the employer, and my wife finally got to work at McDonald's, and they treated her very bad there because she wasn't like problems with that. And just wondered if there's anything you can do to help in that regard as far as employers hiring people that shouldn't. My wife knew, like speaking to them, that they weren't here legally, but they had papers, they had documents. And when I spoke to the employer, he said, yeah, they have documents. They showed us their documents. I don't know where they get their documents, but I think there's a big problem in that area. I don't know what Congress can do to that, for that.
Well, there are two issues here. One is that process by which people come here legally. How many of y'all think our immigration system is broken? Right? Okay. Well, so we do need to fix that. Unfortunately, it gets wrapped up in the debate on a dozen other issues related to immigration. We have a flawed, broken, government-run system on dealing with immigrants who want to come to this country. That needs to change. But you can't wrap it up in a 2,000-page bill and tell the American people that it's right and it's the right approach. It's not how you should do it. We should take individual pieces of legislation, stand alone, so that we all can judge them one by one and have individual votes on those issues, and you can hold people accountable for those votes that they cast. So we do need to fix that process that y'all are complying with, even if it's expensive and time-consuming. We need to make sure that it's not as expensive and not as time-consuming, but it still ensures that we have people that want to participate in our society. The other question about employers. Well, folks want cheap labor at all costs, but we need to enforce the law, and so that they actually hire legal folks. That is a big draw, are jobs, and so we need to make sure that we're actually enforcing the laws that we have on the books. We have E-Verify on the books that say employers need to check immigration status.
Only a few companies use it.
Right. And so what you're doing is punishing those that are abiding by the law and rewarding those that are not abiding by the law. We need to have even enforcement of this. I think that will do a great service to putting pressure to fix the system we got, and also ensuring that people don't come here illegally for illegal jobs. So, it's really a matter of enforcing the law. I really think so.
My wife, I told you she was from Peru, she thinks that, the way we do, the way I think, you and I think about the problem, even though she's from Peru and speaks Spanish.
And look, this is not about any one country or anybody else. I think we're welcoming people. I hope we're welcoming people. And so we need to have that same spirit. And so it isn't about one language or another. It's about people that want to come and participate in our society and enjoy the freedoms that we do. I think you're exactly right. Thank you. Yes, yes ma'am.
Susan Town, I'm from Charlottesville, here in South Carolina. Last year I asked you a question. I had watched some C-SPAN, the oversight committee that you're in charge of, talked to a constitutional expert who relayed to y'all that yes, the president was in violation of the Constitution and signing executive orders and just going right by the legislature. We've seen several executive orders since then, not only in relationship to Obamacare and enacting or not enacting parts of it, purely for political motivations, and many other topics. I asked you at that time why he is not being impeached, and you said to me, we can't get by here and read it. I don't know if you're familiar with a recent poll. A national poll showed that fully 33% of Americans, including 58% of Republicans, 38% of independents, and even 13% of Democrats, are calling for impeachment of the President of the United States. And this document that hundreds of thousands of our men have died to protect says when despotism and abuses take over this country, it's our responsibility to act and stop this tyranny that's going on in our country. And truly, we're living in a state of tyranny. And you can put a pretty picture on it, and I understand your problem with this gentleman's question about the media and the bias in the media. There's also studies that if we had a fair media that actually told people the truth in an unbiased journalism manner, the way they're supposed to, the swing would be about 30%, and it would be 18% in our favor. And we don't get that. We don't have the opportunity to get it. And I understand you can't get by here and read, but you couldn't get by here and read last year when you passed 40 pieces of legislation to stop Obamacare, and that didn't stop you from doing that.
We got 7 of them then. We won on 7 of them, right? It's not a great batting average for sure, but, right? Well, so
My question is, here's my question.
Go right.
Considering all that, I don't know why the Republican Party is so busy fighting itself, spending their money fighting conservative candidates, actually paying Democrats in the state of Louisiana to go out and vote in the primary to keep a Tea Party candidate from getting elected, taking money from Cuccinelli in Virginia, while we've got a Democratic funder in Texas funding a Libertarian candidate to take 9% of the vote, and Karl Rove taking his funding away a month before the election from the PAC money that the federal Republicans have. You're your own worst enemies, and I don't mean you personally, I just, just the Republicans are their own worst enemy, and their infighting is what the Democrats are going to use against them in the upcoming election to do, because we look like
Who's
fools.
the most excited about our infighting?
When the Democrats are. And I just want to know when the Republicans are going to have some, excuse me, everybody, stones to be Ronald Reagan and stand up and speak the truth in a unified voice instead of playing political games, because all it makes America think is that y'all are useless and you're all in the same boat, and it's not the boat any of us want to be in.
Amen.
It's a House, Republican House, Democrat Senate, Democrat President. When we're in a negotiation, it's 1 against 2. And the President has the biggest microphone. I'm as frustrated as you are. I'm as frustrated as you are, and I'm trying to find every means that we can to check this President's game, to actually check what he's doing, not to me, not to federal office holders, but to the American people. I'm your representative. I'm only there to carry your voice. I hear your frustration. I hear it. But I don't think what you're advocating gets the results you want. The results you want are in November. Make sure we have Harry Reid as a minority leader, not the majority leader in the United States Senate. That's what I spend a little of my free time on. And so my concern is to make sure that we have 2 against 1 in the final 2 years of this presidency. The people that are raising the most money off of that I word are Democrats. They're the ones that are stoking that. They're the ones that are trying to make sure that we all start talking about it. They just want to raise money off of it so they can win the next election. I'm focused on winning the election, not trying to take that path. So, look, I mean, it's frustrating. And what I'm trying to do is take every... Right. So it doesn't... Have you seen the movie Lincoln? Have you watched the movie Lincoln? How many of y'all seen the movie Lincoln? Okay, a few of y'all, okay? Great movie, very interesting to watch. Republican Party of the 1860s had so much infighting, and yet they were fighting a civil war. Well, we won't get into all this South and North and all this other issues, but the point is, infighting is as old as politics. It's not new. And so, am I comfortable with the infighting? Well, if you're going to be engaged in the political process, people are going to have opinions. You know? We're on the same side. I think it sounds like you're a conservative. I'm a conservative. And we have some disagreements on tactics and strategy in order to get the outcomes that we want. That's fine. We can disagree about this. But we got to make sure that we're at least rowing the boat in the right direction together. And it always will be. Parties are never unified perfectly. Parties are about 2 things: ideas and people. And people have different ideas. And even if we agree on the same idea, we may try to cross the river in a different way. We may try to get there in a different way. We may sound differently about our approaches. And that's okay. That's okay. I'm not upset about it. You have a different strategy than I do. But doesn't mean that we can't agree on things here and there. I just don't think that what you're advocating gets you the results you want. If you want this president out of power, you need to make sure that the next election is better for Republicans, and he will have less power because we'll have a unified legislative branch, and we can determine how much spending the president can get. We can force bills on his desk, and rather than killing them on Harry Reid's desk, we can actually ask the president whether or not he will sign it or veto it. I think that's far more powerful than what you're advocating.
It would if the president was willing to follow the Constitution. He's already said he won't do it. He's willing to sign it.
If you're so frustrated, then you just want to hang it up. I'm not willing to just hang it up. Just not. I still think elections matter, and I still think elections can change the direction of this country. You read the headlines of 2004 when President Bush was reelected. You know what the headlines were? permanent Republican majority. Remember that? It's hard to believe that they actually made those headlines. 2008 came, what did they say? Permanent Democrat majority, right? It can change in the next election. It can. The American people are not as dumb as some of the national media want us to believe that they are. So that's my view. We can talk more about it, but look, I share your frustration. I just don't share your strategy. Yes, sir.
My name is still Greg Wilson.
Oh, you're back again. Anybody else have to ask a question?
I'm having difficulty counting from 1 to 2, but anyway.
Sorry, it's been a long
I
day.
can share her frustration because she probably feels the same way I do, and that is that the elections that we've observed and participated in, I believe, have been good. There's a court case going on in Mississippi right now, 30-something thousand votes. Black pastors going out giving walk-around money to their constituents to vote the wrong way. Now that's a strange relationship you got there when you got the preachers teaching the people in the church how to lie and steal. But having said that, I think there's a lot of people in here that would like to know why can't the Republican Party give that president a swift kick in the posterior, impeach him, and send him back where he needs to go, because he obviously don't like this country.
Well, look, I disagree. I just don't think I don't think that's the right approach. I don't think we should do that. I just don't. And look, so, but like I said, I share your frustration. I just don't think the idea of that actually works out. I don't think he's actually committed high crimes and misdemeanors. Now, that may be frustrating for you to hear, but what we have to do is limit his power by having a House and a Senate that put bills on his desk, and we have 2 people negotiating as one. Then you'll like the outcomes a whole lot more. Your frustration with the Republican Party is we're negotiating with we can and y'all, you've been very nice about it, but we're not being disagreeable about it. We just disagree. I mean, it's
Tactics aren't working though, that's the problem.
That's right.
Your tactics aren't effective.
He's already 10 steps ahead of the
well, you
Republicans.
have to understand, we have elections at fixed times. And if you believe in the Constitution, you have to accept the outcomes of it, even if it's very deeply flawed in terms of the policy you get.
That's not the point.
The question was that people of the Republican Party spending money because not strategic measures. The Republican Party, any Democrat Congress.
Are you a Republican, ma'am? So am I. Do you support what they're doing? Okay, you have as much power in terms of that as I do. Right? So what I'm telling you is just because you disagree with that, don't support those people. But I don't support that tactic. I think primaries should be determined by the people in those districts, not from outside groups. We'll get back to you, I promise. Let me just answer other people's questions that I have to ask you. And I'm not trying to debate with individuals in the audience. I just...
Mississippi that open primaries and Democrats vote.
All right. We can talk afterwards, but let's make sure we get everybody a chance to ask the question who wants to ask. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, Mr. McHenry. The last time I talked to you, I said what people have said to you tonight. Get out there, grab a microphone, surprise somebody with a camera, and speak out. That's what the whole country is looking for. I'll tell you another thing. We have time to keep up with the news. Little bits and pieces coming from 20 directions all day long by the hour. You guys are busy with your heads in a bill or whatever. You're in a committee. You're not hearing all the different things that we're hearing that are coming from all over the country. Do you all have that feeling? Yeah. Okay, and we are swamped. We are swamped. First of all, I feel like we're not a country right now. We don't have a border. And that is the definition of a country. A country has borders. Okay? That's just a statement I'm making on that. Now, I want to talk to you more about the immigration problem, because information is coming. It's leaking from people who are down there. who are working there. And they are telling others who are coming through to us that you will not know. Wait, I'll go back. First of all, the government knows everything about me and everything about you and everybody here. They know what we make, they know what we eat, they know everything about us. They hover with helicopters over our own houses to see if we're growing something in the yard that we shouldn't be growing. Okay, but now these illegals are under the most supreme protection of anybody on our soil. And they have said that. The governors say, nobody even tells me that they just are they're delivering 350 kids. They're not telling me. They're not telling me where they're dropping them. They're not telling me who's taking care of them. They're not telling me who their foster parents are. Well, we can't even find foster parents in Gastonia or Hickory to take in a few dozen kids in our own county. Who is going to take care of 600 kids who are going to arrive on August 9th in North Carolina? I told the governor yesterday, and boy, there were some headlines today. Yes, I told him. I said, you probably don't know. You've got a new budget, which is quite good, includes the school teachers, and you know you've been following the budget in North Carolina. We don't have a lot of debt. We're doing okay with our health care and all that, Medicaid and stuff. But what are we going to do with all these children? This is the beginning. And you know, there are other people behind all this that we would never suspect. Catholic Social Services and all kinds of organizations are encouraging this. And we are helpless. What are we going to do? We have nobody blocking them or stopping them. Is that correct?
The bill we passed would stop that. Now the question is, how do you affect that? If we can't affect that through legislation, we have to go to the courts.
Yeah, do
Right?
it. Do it.
And that's what we're doing. And I've had town halls where people are yelling at me because we authorized a lawsuit to make sure the president upholds the law. And there are lawsuits going through the courts now about this.
It's
And
too
the president-
slow.
So what is your answer? What do we do then?
Well,
What do we do then?
I don't know what to do, but you guys,
Send it back
Send it to the White House.
to where they came from.
Send it to the White House.
you
If
can't
it
do
is,
that.
that is.
You can't do that.
Yes, you can.
You are not the driver of that bus. You
I'll
don't know where the plane came in. You
I'll
can't do
drive.
that.
Say, hey, put them on that Homeland
I will
Security.
drive.
They have protection, they have rights, they have lawyers, they have judges.
So do we.
Well, we're not first.
They don't have the rights to the
We're not
United
first.
States.
All right, everyone.
We are not first anymore. The illegals are first. And it is because our president wants to destroy our country. Now let's get it straight.
Congressman, you don't believe that last statement, do you? That he wants to destroy our country?
No one wants to believe that about any president.
No one wants to believe it, but do you believe it? Do you believe that? Yes or no? The majority of the people clapped when she said it.
Just
In
because-
agreement.
Sir, just because a loud voice in a crowd says that doesn't mean I want to believe that at all.
I'm not asking you whether you want to. Do you? Do you believe he
I don't
wants to
think
destroy
anyone
our
would
country?
run for president that doesn't want the country to succeed.
our country.
So the answer is no. You do not believe he wants to destroy it.
He believes in open borders. No question about it.
And hence your tactics and hence the ineffectiveness.
He does not believe in the
It's logical.
order for the citizens of this country that's going down the tube. Because he will not enforce the law.
So why don't we do this? Why don't y'all line up and tell me what exactly, step by step, you want done?
Get on
Right?
media, NBC, ABC, CNN.
You want me on the
not to
news?
do that.
You want me on the
Say
news?
it's too expensive.
What else?
He's giving up on that.
I believe that the vast majority of people in this are fed up. It's really true.
And so am I. I am fed up with what he is trying to do, the policies he's trying to implement, from the get-go of that stimulus, to the health care bill, to Dodd-Frank, which is the Obamacare, the financial regulations, to his spending, to what he's doing on immigration, to what he's doing on not enforcing the law. You think I agree with him? Lord, no. The question is, how do you stop this power? And that's what I'm asking.
And I think the vast majority of people here probably feel very close to the way I think. I look at him kind of like a schoolyard fool. And he thinks he can do anything anymore. And so far, he's getting away with it. But I think he needs a really swift kick in the posterior. And I don't understand. I mean, the Congress is fixing this.
And how did that work out? How did it work out? What happened? 1998, what happened?
Bill Clinton was never more popular than when he was.
I'm sorry. Say that again.
Sir? Bill Clinton was never so popular as when they tried to kick him out. Just right. Don't.
So wait a second. So let me ask you.
Bill Clinton will be around. To the president we have now.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Hold on a second. Time out. Okay? This has gotten out of control. And I don't think this is fair to y'all. It's not fair to you. But people want to ask questions. Now, what I'm hearing is your frustration with what's happening in Washington. Okay? And you're thinking...
No. It's our frustration with you not acting as to what's happening in Washington. Not acting forcefully. Like Reagan said to Bill Bennett. Like, yes, you personally. Like, yeah, when Ronald Reagan... he said to Bill Bennett, you've got all these, you've been derailed in 6 major newspapers. What have the rest of you been doing? We want to hear your name in the press taking flack for standing up for your constituents' values, beliefs, and policies, positions.
So therefore, if I'm not in the press, I'm not acting.
Yes.
Okay.
No, you are not standing up the way we expect you.
Look,
let me nuance that for you.
Okay. I hear you. For the rest of y'all, are y'all frustrated with Washington?
Yeah.
Okay? All right. How many of y'all are frustrated that I'm not acting strongly enough? Raise your hand. Okay. Now to answer your concerns, right? My question to you is, what do you want me to do? He said, get on the media. You said, get on the media. I hear you. Okay? What else? I'm looking for ideas. If you're saying I'm not performing well enough as your employee, you have to give me the way forward so you can say I get high marks from it. And look, I'm not going to please everyone all the time. Y'all should have been in my town hall meeting 2 nights ago, right? The folks that showed up there. It's not simply about saying whoever's in the crowd, I'm just going to agree with you. You wouldn't like it if it was a bunch of liberals that showed up and I did that. And it's not responsible because that's not what I believe. So my question is, what are those steps you want me to take? Because I wake up every day to figure out how I can best represent you and carry your voice out. I do. That's why I have these town hall meetings. Not because they're easy for anyone to stand up and take pot shots at you and tell you you're a loser. Right? That's not rewarding. It's not. No, I'm not. I'm not saying y'all. But, well, you should go to all my town hall meetings. You might hear it. So, but the point is, I rack my brain, and I try to seek out people with better ideas and better tactics. I do. I spend a lot of time working through how we plot strategy to get the best outcomes y'all want. And so many of our fights within the Republican Party are not about outcomes, not about ideas, not about how you fix education, not about how you fix health care, but how you do it along the way. And I'll say this, the president and his party are pretty darn good at sowing that dissent, right? You're not good enough because y'all disagree on this one line out of a 500-line bill, right? And so you're making the perfect enemy of the good, right? And you sow dissent among your enemies. Brilliant strategy, absolutely brilliant strategy. And I'll say this, the president has a far better strategy than Republicans had. That's how he won re-election this last time. So I hear you, and we're not disagreeing on issues. No one has raised an issue and saying, I don't like your vote on health care. We're talking about strategy and tactics.
So the
What do you think
Republicans
is
have a
going on?
strategy?
Pardon me?
Do the Republicans have a strategy?
Are you in line?
Yeah.
I have a feeling,
Are you in line?
no, I have a feeling that if you do get the Senate, nothing's gonna change.
Well, let me talk to you about that, okay? I'm gonna answer, got it? That's the biggest question. How are y'all concerned about that? Raise your hand. Okay, all right. Yes, ma'am. You've been very polite, and anybody else who's here in line, sit down, sorry.
Good evening, Representative. I am one of those persons that have, my name is Dr. Brian. I have taken the past few days to listen to at several of your town hall meetings. For full disclosure, I did not vote for Mr. McHenry. And I want to first say thank you very much for understanding that your constituent service goes beyond just your own personal party. I want to say that. I do have a substantive question for you though. When you talk about you do not believe in the immigration process, what are your recommendations that we do other than have National Guard to escort children through park areas, to holding cells, to send them back to drug and war-torn countries that are that way because they are sending those drugs to the United States, which is #1 in drug imports. So I just want to know how you can balance saying you do not believe in the immigration process unless everyone comes legally, when most of us, as you stated yourself, can't either.
I did not say most of us came illegally. I said most of us came legally. Okay? And what are we talking about?
That is true.
That actually is true. No, we actually, if you go back 100 years, you could. Oh, I want to address the state first of all. Now, I said the process that we currently have is broken. And when you have folks that it takes 10 years to process paperwork, we obviously have a broken system by which people come here legally. We also have quotas on different nations that were set 50 years ago. 50 years ago. That's not in keeping with what our needs are. We have college students that overstay their visa because we don't time the college visa and their renewals with an educational experience, an educational process. And then we have folks that will come to use our resources, our universities, our colleges, and then as soon as they get done, we say, you have to go home. Well, that's not smart for us. We're going to give them, our educational system is a national treasure. Every country around the world uses it that way. We should do it the same way. You want to come and use our educational facilities? I think that may mean that we want to welcome you to stay and use that education and we work here, not go automatically send you back to the country. So there are a number of things we can do that are sensible that have to be dealt with on a case-by-case basis, not with a 2,000-page bill like the Senate. We also have to say, if you came here illegally and you've committed crimes, there is no way we can legalize you, right? Well, whoa, that's in the Senate bill. You have a Senate bill, and the Senate bill, you have folks that are felons that will still be able to be legalized after that. It is the craziest thing, and that's.
Is part of the problem that we have all the way to Roses. Again, I appreciate you considering your thought, your answering question and thoughtfulness that you have on the decision of this matter.
Thank you.
Are you going to give your property back to the top end?
It's fine. fine. Look, everyone should be allowed to have their opinion. Everyone should be allowed to have their opinion. Anyone else do not ask a question? Okay. And actually, we stand up and laugh in the aisle, so there's some. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. We'll go over here, and we'll just line up in the aisles, and we'll try to deal with everyone as they are. Kristen just gave me a note. We have 43 people here tonight, and so once we have folks lined up in the aisle, this will be the end, so we can make sure we process all these questions.
Well, first of all, my name is John Cuomo. I'm from Maiden, North Carolina, and I just want to say that I do appreciate the fact that you are holding town meetings. Anytime I have emailed you, you responded to me. I think you're doing a great job for the limit that you have. And I guess my question here is not known to law. The House is suing Obama for because they feel they have standing, right? If you didn't have standing, you couldn't sue. Right? So my question is, with the government dumping all these illegals into our communities that are going to our schools, that are going to our emergency room, that are taking services away from legal people who are here, and we are going to pay for it. Would the citizens of North Carolina have standing, or could our governor or district attorney or attorney general sue the government based on us having standing that we're being hurt by illegals coming here?
That's I can't answer the question. I'm not a lawyer. But we can find out for you and see if that's even possible. The question of the U.S. House of Representatives having standing is one that has to be determined by the courts.
Right.
It's not yet been determined. We have a number of legal scholars that say that we do, and this is a viable and good lawsuit, if you will, to undertake. So, but I'm not sure about a local government that has had to shell out money because the federal government's not enforcing the law. It sounds interesting, and let me follow.
We know our taxes are going to go up because of this. I mean, our governor said that he's already found that they have 1,000 illegals here already. The lady there said there's another 600 coming. This is just the beginning of it.
We'll follow up with you and see if that's possible. Yes. Is the microphone works?
My name is Skip Hill. I'm from Newton, and I want to welcome Congressman Patrick McHenry. I'm very proud and glad that you came here. I am a veteran. My uncle was a veteran of World War II. My daddy was in the Korean War. I was in Vietnam, and my son, Paul, was in the Middle East as a Marine. My question to you is, it's a simple question. What's the status of our military right now?
Well, the men and women that are serving us here and abroad are the same as they've always been, right? Well trained, with the best equipment, and at the moment they have the best capacity of any military in the world. At the moment, the challenge is in the next 5 years, to the next 10 years. The budget is not keeping pace for them to train and for them to have the equipment and technology they need to defend us and do the things we ask of them. My concern is not where the military stands today, but where it will stand in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And if we don't have a change in Washington, we are on a slow slide when it comes to our national defense, and that is dangerous. The main concern right now, at the moment, is not those fighting men and women. because they're as honorable and as strong and as great as they've always been. But it's having a foreign policy and a military policy that conveys strength. Now, I'm not saying we need to police the world. We do not need to police the world. That is for sure. We can't afford it, and it's not in our national interest. And if it's not in our national interest and we can't afford it, we surely shouldn't do it. But having said that, what did Theodore Roosevelt say? Walk softly and carry a big stick, right? And if you walk softly and carry a big stick, you don't have to get in every fight. What this president has conveyed is weakness. And I've had questions about what's happening today in Iraq. And what has happened in Afghanistan with the loss of a 2-star general and a number of our fighting men and women. And the loss of human life is a tragedy in the battlefield and here at home. But we ask these men and women to do that. And if we ask them to do that, we have to have a competent, strong policy and a motivation for it. And what has happened now with Iraq is not simply an issue of the last couple of months. It is a foreign policy that says that we're going to pull back no matter what the cost. No matter what the cost, and even if it means destabilizing regions of the world. That's not the right approach. The other thing we have to do in terms of our foreign policy is make sure that the number 3 and 4 economies in the world actually start paying their fair share for world security. That means Japan and Germany. Those are number 3 and 4. Number 2 is obviously China. They have their own national interests, and that runs counter to ours. The other, in the top list of economies in the world, is Russia, and they obviously have their direction. But we have allies, we should utilize those allies, and we should also remain strong with our allies, especially when it comes to Israel and what is happening there right now. So our one true friend in the world, we need to honor. I hope that answers it completely. We can obviously talk more about it. But thank you. Yes, sir. Sorry, we've got one over here. Yes, sir.
My name is Barry West. I'm McHenry, and I'd like to know your views on the Second Amendment laws we have in place now, the changes in upcoming Congress is going to take effect.
Well, I think the Constitution says what it means, and it means what it says. I think we have the right to keep and bear arms as individuals. I think the Supreme Court rightly rules that we have an individual right to keep and bear arms. And I think the Second Amendment is our first freedom.
So you do stand behind it?
Absolutely. I'm a member of the NRA, life member of the NRA, and stand firmly behind our Second Amendment rights.
You see legislation coming up in the next session?
I see legislation coming out. I see legislation coming out by the gun ban groups around the country, and their activists in Congress that try to encroach on our rights. And I fight against it every day, but they keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And when you look at the Department of Justice, and you look at the folks that are in Washington that are trying to take our gun rights, you have to be ever diligent every day. But you can count on me to defend your Second Amendment rights. I'm grateful we got a sheriff in our county that respects our Second Amendment rights too. It's not always easy for law enforcement to stand up for it, but when we got somebody good who's doing that, we need to say thank you. So thank you. Thank you, sir.
I stand behind the Second Amendment all the way.
Too bad for them. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm Jeff. We're here at Maiden. Ready to get off the immigration thing for a minute.
I'm game for whatever y'all are.
Get into health care. I've been in 2 meetings at work here in the last couple of days. I understand, you see is the Affordable Health Care Act as an oxymoron. I'm glad we're on the same page there. But because of the second meeting I was in just today versus the one that I was in a couple days ago, They did not put out an exact number as they did on the first day. But, so I'm gonna keep the actual dollar value of what it's going to be. Not at the time, but right now, it's at 5 times, next year, it's going to be at 5 times what it's at right now. And working for the largest, if not one of the largest, if not the largest employer in Top County, GK and Driveline. Now, I understand that it's one of the more higher paying employers. I really haven't done my homework on that because I'm retired Navy. I've done that and laid out about a year and then came here and I've been here ever since. So other than Navy and this, that's all. No. But I'm just trying to, get a common feel of how much you're fighting for this healthcare thing. 5 times what we're paying now, it's going to hurt a lot of people. It's going to be, well, do I pay for healthcare? Do I buy groceries? Do I pay for healthcare?
Right.
Pay mortgage?
Right.
And at one of the higher paying employers in the county, what's it going to be for the lower paying? I mean, I feel that it's going to just implode and just.
So preliminary numbers for the state of North Carolina, under Obamacare in the individual market, you're going to have over a 10% increase in premiums. So let me ask y'all a question. How many of y'all support Obamacare? Okay.
You're at the wrong meeting.
Okay. What's that?
You're at the wrong meeting.
Right. So I'm asking questions. So let me also ask you another question. How many of y'all believe that President Obama will sign a repeal of Obamacare? 1, 2. Hope springs eternal. How many of y'all think President Obama will sign a full repeal of Obamacare? Okay. Now, I want a full repeal of Obamacare. I don't think it will happen under this president. Do y'all agree? Okay. All right. So then, the question is, what can we get this president to sign that helps more people and leads the way for us to repeal Obamacare? Right? To your point.
Absolutely nothing.
Well,
Will not.
that's hope, right? That's hope. I'm telling you, what is a practical step to do this? Well, it is actually putting reasonable bills on this president's desk and make him defend indefensible policies. Under Obamacare, they tax medical devices, meaning hips, replacement hips, knees, and joints. It's a medical device tax. Well, we need to, I think, if you have a Republican Senate, you have a bill that comes out of the House and it repeals this one tax. And it goes through the Senate, and it goes to the president's desk, and he has to make a decision. Does he repeal a part of Obamacare that the American people reject and want repealed? Right?
You don't care.
He won't
Right?
do it.
You don't care.
Well, I know y'all think this, but you go and ask the average person. It would be a shock to them to understand this president is not in favor of reasonable things. Ask the average person on the street. Not the one that's paying attention, but the one that votes in elections. Okay? So then you have to put individual bills like that on the president's desk. It doesn't repeal all of Obamacare, although what I'd like to see is a full repeal of Obamacare, put it on his desk and make him make a decision. Right? But we got to put those bills on his desk and make him make a decision. Does he stand with the American people, or does he stand with the his activist liberal wing? So when it comes to Obamacare, we've got to be able to put forward those repeals and also reasonable health care reform policies. Being able to buy health insurance across state lines, that would inject more competition than Obamacare has ever dreamed of doing. In fact, they don't really inject competition. It would give us more choices. You put that on the president's desk, you make him make a choice. Then he's going to have to defend it, not Republicans defending whether or not they believe in health care reform. So those are the types of things that we're going to put forward next year. If we can get a Republican Senate Republican majority in the Senate, you can see those things get to the president's desk. That's what I'm trying to push forward. This leads right into the agenda. If you have a Republican House and a Republican Senate, what do we put forward? And so I'll answer that once we get through these questions. I'm going to answer what that should look like. Okay? And then I want your feedback. Yes.
Welcome to Cobb County.
Thank you.
And I know, do you all know that we have 40 precincts in Cobb County? How many do you think are organized? Less than 50% are organized. That means there's a chairman and a secretary. There's also vice chairs and things like that. But you can't win if you don't have your precincts organized and door to door and phone calling. Go to church. Talk to the people that you go to church with. Surely they feel kind of like what you guys do, what I do. We lost the election for president because the other side brought in people. In fact, in Newton, at the library where you vote in Newton, they, a couple of teenage girls came in and they had about 45 or 50 people with them. And we said, well, where are y'all from? They said, Seattle, Washington. They came here into North Carolina, into a little suite in Catawba County, to make sure that their guy won the race. I'm sorry, I'm K-Ball from Newton, North Carolina. But we can't do it alone. You have to go to your precincts. You have to go to your precinct meetings. You have to get out there and say, I am willing to go and talk to people my age, talk to people my children. I don't know. I don't know what I do with my children if they voted anything but conservative, but they may sometime. But I'm just saying, you can blame every person in the Senate and every person in the House, but you can't say that we did not make it happen, because we did.
That's true.
I don't think impeachment's the right thing, because it's just going to get the media behind President Obama. Poor President Obama. It's not fair. They'll play the race card on it. I'm not trying to be racist, but they'll do that, and he'll play the victim card. He's great at that. And it's not, don't go that way. Plus, you can't win anyway. You can't get him out because the Senate, the House can vote to impeach, but the Senate acts as the jury. You could have a 2/3. You're not going to get him the Senate. It's controlled by the Democrats. So you're not going to get him out. You're just going to give him an issue, and the Democrats are going to rally behind him. You need to support Republican, whether it's Tea Party, whoever it is. You get, like I'm with the lady, you got to organize, and I have to hold my nose and vote for Tom Tillis, because he's a Republican. I don't Tea Party with it. I mean, you just got to go with it. You got to get Kay Hagan out of there because she's with Obama. And I'm not a Tom Tillis fan, to be honest with you. But impeachment is not the way to do it. Stick together. You may not like, it may be too moderate a Republican for the Tea Party people, or for moderates, it might be too. I'm voting Republican, whether it's a Tea Party, a moderate, whatever. That's the only way. Elections is that's why they put elections in there. If you're not happy, it's elections that change things. And you have them every 2 years. This is a key election right here. If the Republicans don't take the Senate, I think you can kiss it goodbye. I really do. You probably kiss this country.
All right, so you're the last one up, and then I'm going to answer this gentleman's question from earlier on what we expect if the elections are what I hope they would be, right?
So I'd like
you can hold me
I'd like
accountable.
you to answer not only about the Senate and the House, but if we also had a Republican president, what would change?
You're up in the ante on me.
Yes, I am.
All right, final two here, and then we'll go from there. Yes, sir.
David Hatfield, Catawba. Glad you came. You speak to Richard Burke,
Occasionally.
He needs to do the same thing. I don't hear anything out of my senator.
Except they gave $25,000 to Mississippi.
The lady left that was talking about the children. They always speak of the children that come across the border. I want to point out something. A Border Patrol agent was killed 3 days ago, I think, by 2 illegals that were in the country for the 6th or 7th time that were convicted felons, and his father was also attacked. I wanted them to know that, but they were. We've kind of beat a dead horse. What I want you to do is what Harry Reid does, except not do the stupid, crazy things that he does because he is not believe that. Stand up in the well of the house and pound your fist.
Yeah.
That's what's going to get on the news. Because that's what I want to do right now.
Yeah.
The quorum prevents that, and I'm trying to be silly. I want you to stand up and show your butt. That's what I want.
Yep.
That's how I feel. What are we going to do about the NSA? And what are we going to do about the overreach by the FAA on third-class medical certificates that are required for pilots like me that fly small airplanes?
The second question, I believe I signed on to legislation that would fix that issue about the FAA. I believe that's the case. It's been a long week already. What's that? Okay. But let me get your information afterwards to make sure I signed on to the bill that I signed on actually fixes that issue, because that's an unnecessary expense. And it's a racket, actually. I think it's just a racket that the government is allowing or propping up. About the first issue, NSA. Now, as my friend Trey Gowdy will say, there are things that the government may be permitted to do under the Constitution, but the society will not bear it, will not stand for it, will not permit it, will not allow it. And the NSA has gone to that degree now with collecting data that they should not be collecting. And they say, but we have a court rule. That's not good enough for me. That's not good enough for me because they're gathering such a mass amount of information. It raises great concern when it comes to privacy and our civil liberties. And obviously there is always that challenge, that push and pull between security and freedoms. But we've got to rebalance this thing. The government's gone too far. It's gone way too far, and we have to pull that back. I supported an amendment on NSA to end one of those programs that a congressman named Justin Amash wrote this amendment. That's one of the steps, but we've got to go further to make sure the NSA is reined in. We still care about national security, obviously care about national security, but we also don't want the government to know every cotton-picking thing about us that are here, that are not committing crimes and everything else. We want them to find the bad guys, but that doesn't mean punish all of us that are doing no wrong. So, thank you. Final question of the night.
Congressman, I'm Kyle Heyman, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Conover. And as an elected official, a locally elected official, I've had an opportunity to go to Washington, sat in your office, I've sat in the gallery at the Capitol. I have watched you fight for this district for the years that you have been in D.C. And on behalf of, as a citizen of the district, thank you. You're fighting for the district. You're one individual, and you're making a difference. It may not seem that way to a lot of people, and I respect the opinions of everybody here. But you're up there and you're fighting, and I've seen it firsthand. You've been a friend to the people of the district, and we thank you. I'm here with my fellow council member, Joey Fulbright, and we appreciate you, and on behalf of the City of Conover, we want to congratulate you on your new appointment as Chief Deputy Whip. Folks, I hope you understand how important that appointment is. The Congressman is here to help all of us, and he supports our district, and we thank you.
Thank you.
We look forward to the announcement of your addition to your family today now, too, also. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and Julia's doing fine. She's due August 19th, so we're most excited about that. And that's our first child, so we feel like we're 22-year-old kids trying to figure things out. You know, I've joked that at my age I need an old baby. Thank you, Kyle and Joe. Thank you for kind comments. But yeah, and obviously that thinking a lot about what my daughter's going to inherit as a country, right? And it's the same thing y'all think about, but this is my first child, right? So this brings things into real, clear thoughts. And I've always had that thought that I want to leave the country better than I found it. But that's just, it's different once you bring a child into the mix. But I'm frustrated about what's going on. And we talked a lot about issues, but we also talked a lot about strategy and tactics. What I want to see happen is if Republicans get a majority in the United States Senate, all that means is the majority leader schedules votes. That's it. Right? What Harry Reid's failed to do is actually force votes. Say you vote on issues, and if you don't get agreement, then you have to work through it in order to get, to win the vote. So it's not going to be perfect if Republicans are in charge of the Senate. It's not. But what we can do is pass bills out of the House, have the Senate take it up, and try to come to some agreement on even a small issue. So what I want to see happen at the beginning of the year are a couple of very simple things. Number one, we have to take on health care. And we have to put forward a plan that is better than Obamacare if we're going to be honest and true as conservatives. We have to have an honest assessment of what is working and what is not working. And we can take back some of these taxes. We can redefine full-time work as actually full-time work. Obamacare defines it as 30 hours a week. You want to raise wages, move it to 40 hours a week. That will help a lot of families that have replaced full-time work with part-time work and that are suffering in this economy. So small changes that are significant that will help people when it comes to health care. That's meaningful. Put those bills on the president's desk. And maybe he'll sign some. Maybe. And if not, he's going to have to explain to the American people why he opposes something very reasonable. Number one. Number two, energy policy. We need to put forward a national energy policy that uses our natural resources and is all the above. Not about Solyndra, it's about every type of energy production we can have in this country. That means using natural resources. Even if the president's activists don't like it, we need to use our natural resources. Every other country around the globe uses their natural resources and thinks of it as national wealth. We can be the Saudi Arabia of oil and natural gas. We can do that, but we have to have a solid national energy policy. If we can't get the president to agree with the national energy policy, we can force this question of the Keystone Pipeline and make him make a choice and state clearly his view, which keeps shifting just depending on who's talking to him. And if we put that Keystone bill on his desk, he's going to have to make a big decision. And you're going to have some senators that have said different things to different people cast a vote on Keystone Pipeline. That could be the first step for real energy reform and increasing production to make sure we reduce prices at the pump. The other thing we can do is defund this president's plan when it comes to, it's a backdoor way of taxing energy that he's trying to put forward through regulation in the EPA. We can defund that.
There you go.
Right? And then he's going to have to make the decision on whether or not he wants to shut down the government in order to tax us more. Right? And tax our energy more. So we can force these issues on him. The other thing that has to be a responsibility that we have to meet is to actually pass a budget. 2 years ago, we put forward this idea in the House of Representatives. And it said, no budget, no pay. If you don't take up and pass a budget, you don't get paid. Right? Well, my wife wasn't so excited about me not getting paid. Right? It's a little motivation when you get home to make sure you do your day job, right? Well, we forced that, and guess what? The Senate, what did they do? For the first time in 5 years, they actually passed a budget. It was a dog. And these senators that are running for re-election, having voted for that awful budget, that it has deficits forever, for the next 50 years in this country, they have to defend that vote now, right? So we have to put forward a budget, and that budget will help us pare down government spending, reprioritize what we're doing, and force this president to maybe, just maybe, do something reasonable. And as part of this budget, one of the credits that I'm not hearing from anybody of the last 3 years is that Republicans didn't permit this president to raise the taxes he wanted to raise. That's the victory of at least having a Republican House of Representatives. Is it satisfying to say, I stopped something from happening? It's not as satisfying as saying I made something happen, obviously. But it is something, and it is meaningful. So I think if we do just those 3-4 things, on energy, on health care, and on a budget, that would be significant, a significant achievement, which would set up, which would enable American people to judge this president fully and accurately, which will set up the next election in 2016. Obviously, Hillary Clinton is running for president. She's going to be tough to beat. I don't know who the Republican candidate's going to be. I'm sure we got a 20. How many other people are here? What do we have? 43 people here? We at least have 45 opinions in the room, right? On who would be best and who we should have. And we'll work that out. But the infighting's not going to stop. We just have to decide that we're going to be unified on what's important and then respect differences on what it's not. If we're together on 90% of the issues, you're my friend. We're not going to spend 100% of our time fighting about 10%. We shouldn't do that. We shouldn't allow that to happen. We shouldn't let some folks in Washington make that, push that on us. We can work this out. But I do want to tell you, and I do want to close on this, and I've spoken too long, and I'm sorry. Well, let me ask you this. How many of y'all think that your kids are going to have a better country than you would? I didn't ask you that. No. How many of y'all think it's possible? How many of y'all think it's possible? It is possible. And thank you. So I want to end on that note. It is possible. Our system of government's not broken. We got some broken people in that system of government. And we can change that, we can reform that. And to your point, you can change those people in that government without destroying the constitutional form of government that has done us well for over 200 years. We can take this thing back, but it means that we have to carry that burden to carry the message out to people that aren't paying attention, to make sure they understand what it means to participate in our society, which means you need to understand the issues and you need to make your voice heard. And if we have more people that are rational, go out and participate, we'll have better outcomes. But we can't hope that somebody else does it. We can't sit on the sidelines and say, gosh, I wish somebody would do that. We have to be participating in that process in order to get the changes we want. And if we don't do that, we're going to not get the changes we want. We're going to get the changes we deserve. And I will tell you, I don't want to get what I deserve. All right, maybe that's a bad joke. But anyway, it is a bad joke. So, but I do want to end on that note, that we can take this back, and I am optimistic that we can. Because our people haven't changed. There's still enough of us that value hard work and the value of a day's earned pay through that hard work. And together we can make this change. I really do believe it. And I want to thank y'all for the opportunity to represent you. The opportunity to be your voice to Washington, not Washington's voice to you. Y'all get enough of that from other people, but you're not going to get that from me. And I appreciate y'all giving me the opportunity to work for it. And more than anything, in those long weeks in Washington, I appreciate your prayers. Thanks so much. God bless.